Welcome back to the world of Detective William Sinclair. Today, Sinclair faces a perplexing case involving a missing masterpiece and 3 intriguing suspects. Get ready for a deep dive into the art of crime solving. During a high-profile auction at the prestigious Silverstone Gallery, the renowned painting The Eternal Sunset vanishes. The gallery owner, Ms. Evelyn Moore, is desperate for answers and turns to Detective Sinclair. Ms. Moore. Detective Sinclair, thank you for coming. The painting was stolen right from our display room, and we have no idea who could have done this. There was no forced entry or sign of a struggle. Sinclair. I'll need to examine the scene and interview everyone present during the auction. Can you provide me with a list of attendees and staff? Sinclair carefully examines the crime scene. He finds several key pieces of evidence: a broken security camera, a coffee cup with a unique lipstick mark, and muddy footprints suggesting someone recently walked through a garden. Sinclair begins interviewing the 3 suspects in separate rooms: Mr. Richard Lawson, the gallery's curator, Mrs. Julia Brooks, a well-known art collector, and Mr. Tom Harris, the gallery's security guard. Interview with Mr. Lawson. Sinclair. Mr. Lawson, can you tell me where you were during the time of the theft? Mr. Lawson. I was in my office preparing some documents. I rarely leave the office during events to ensure everything is in order. Interview with Mrs. Brooks. Sinclair. Mrs. Brooks, you were an interested buyer at the auction. Can you account for your whereabouts when the painting was stolen? Mrs. Brooks. I was mingling with other guests exploring the gallery. I can't recall exactly where I was at the exact moment of the theft. Interview with Mr. Harris. Sinclair. Mr. Harris, you were monitoring the security cameras. What can you tell me about the technical issues? Mr. Harris. There was a brief glitch in the system, but I was on it right away. Unfortunately, I couldn't see what happened during that short window. Sinclair makes some crucial connections. The muddy footprints lead to a garden area, indicating that someone was outside the gallery. The lipstick mark on the coffee cup matches Mrs. Brooks' shade, raising questions about her involvement. Sinclair revisits the suspects with his findings. Sinclair. Mr. Lawson, you have access to the security system. Could you explain how the camera might have been disabled? Mr. Lawson. I had no need to tamper with the cameras. My office is separate from the security control. Sinclair. Mrs. Brooks, the lipstick mark on the coffee cup indicates you were at the scene. How do you explain this? Mrs. Brooks. I used a similar cup earlier, but I don't see how that connects to the theft. I was just a guest. Sinclair. Mr. Harris, can you tell me more about the technical issues you faced? Mr. Harris. It was a temporary issue, easily fixable. I was focused on getting the cameras back online. Sinclair pieces together the final details. Lawson's financial troubles and his access to the security system make him a prime suspect. Harris's inconsistencies and the technical issues add further suspicion to the case. Sinclair confronts Mr. Lawson and Mr. Harris together. Sinclair says, Mr. Lawson, you had the means and the motive. The muddy footprints in the garden area are consistent with your shoes. We also discovered evidence linking you to the theft. Mr. Lawson admits, all right, you got me. I couldn't resist the temptation. But Harris was involved too. Sinclair says, Mr. Harris, your technical issues provided a perfect cover. You helped Lawson disable the cameras to pull off the heist. Mr. Harris confesses, I was desperate for money. Lawson promised me a cut if I helped him. Sinclair recovers the stolen painting from a hidden compartment in Lawson's office. He hands it back to a relieved Ms. Moore. Sinclair says the painting is recovered, and the perpetrators are in custody. The gallery can now restore its reputation. Ms. Moore replies, thank you, Detective Sinclair. Your expertise has saved us from a major disaster. Another intricate case solved by Detective William Sinclair. No matter how complex the crime, the truth always prevails. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned for more detective adventures.